So this is 14-year-old Natalie Portman with Letterman. Check this out.
What do your folks do for a living?
My dad's a doctor.
Dr. Portman.
And my mom.
Dr. Portman! What kind of doctor is Dr. Portman?
He's an infertility specialist.
Oh, well, that's very important now because, you know, there aren't enough people.
That fucking face. I mean, Natalie Portman, 14 years old, she's trying to be likable and all, so she laughs out loud at her age. But that Letterman, dumbass motherfucker, joking about something he does not understand, and in fact, that elitist, Malthusian fucking mindset of there's just too many people in the world. There's just too many people of these that are not the kind of people I like because of whatever, skin color, demographics, purchasing power. There's just too much poor people around me and my little mansion, right? And I'll be kind here. I'll be nice. I'll say that he's just one of these elitist idiots that does not even know what he's talking about, because that's the only conclusion you can reach. Otherwise, they're just pure evil. You're talking about demonic crap. That would be the other explanation, because if you don't understand what's happening here, that's the only way you can look at it. If you don't understand that we are not overpopulated, we are rather the opposite. We're running out of people. We will be running out of people, and before that we will be aging, and before that the economy will collapse to pieces because old people simply cannot do the things that young people can. And one of those things is sustain an economy. When you have a bunch of 60 years old, you are literally fucked. There's nothing left for you to do other than just sit down and watch as your society dies, or in this case, as our species disappears. And I'm not exaggerating, I'm not overinflating this Malthusian stupidity of, I just see poor people around me and I don't like it. Let's just make people disappear. That's how everyone ends up disappearing. It's not just the poor people, Letterman. It's going to be all of us. There's going to be no one left, because you cannot turn this switch back again. Once you convince people, once you convince little Natalie Portman there that there's just too many people and there has to be less, and there's no point in having babies, and if you have babies it's bad for the environment, the carbon footprint, and besides, how could you possibly be a strong, independent woman with her own super successful career if you're looking after kids? Families are dated. Women having babies, that's for cavemen. Women barefoot in the kitchen? Dear God, no. Well, don't worry. There's not going to be any kitchen. There's not going to be any babies. There's not going to be any barefoot anything. There's not going to be people at all. And again, not exaggerating, just calling it as it is. And I know this is a tech talk, but the numbers do
Since the 1960s, world population has more than doubled, but the growth rate has been falling the entire time. We're witnessing the most fundamental shift to take place in modern human history, the shift towards pervasive and permanent low fertility, population aging, and eventual depopulation.
Oh, yeah.
Fertility is down everywhere, just at different rates in different places. If fertility stays the same as it is today, just hold still, by the end of this century, China's population...
Which it won't stay. It's like 1.6 to whatever number you're thinking of, and these just keep getting worse. She says this happens if it stays the same. There's nothing at all showing a trend of this staying the same. It's been year after year, decade after decade, going down steadily. So this that she's going to be explaining here in a second is if it stays the same, which is impossible. That's not how mathematics works. That's not how human psychology works. If people are convinced that there's no point in having kids, that it's just too expensive, it's just too outdated, and it's not fun enough, or you have no motivation to have any of them, you will have less and less. So this is going to be a lot worse, but this is if it stays the same.
Population will be less than half of its current size. It's a loss of 800 million people. South Korea's will be down by 63%, Poland's and Japan's by half, Italy's and Thailand's by 44%, Eastern Europe by 40%. Even greater.
And the United States, I don't know why she's not including it here, but it's the exact same. There's not really all that difference between Europe and the United States in terms of fertility rate at this point. And again, this is what she says if it stays the same. You're looking at this trend continuing to decrease. There's just no motivation. It's just, and you talk with people, you see it in the comments. You guys leave these comments yourselves. I've done these videos before. Fernando, it's just too expensive. I don't have the money for having any kind of kids. Why would I? Look at the world in which we are. What would be the point? Oh, I have one. Somewhere I have two. That is rare. There's a handful of people that have more than a couple kids. It's difficult enough to find someone with one, let alone two. Forget about finding anyone with three. There's just no motivation for that. Financial incentives. There's no social push towards that. It's actually the opposite. Women are ridiculed for thinking about being mothers and having families. And that trend just keeps getting worse.
A number of countries are already aging. Again, just 20 years ago, if we'd lined up everyone in Japan or Italy or Germany from the youngest person to the oldest, and we asked that person in the middle their age, they would have been 40 years old. Today, the populations of Thailand, Kuwait, and Cuba are just as old, with Chile, Iran, and Vietnam close behind.
Yeah, basically the same globally, except for a handful of countries in Africa. Everyone is in the same bag. Now, the worst one off is South Korea, and this is what's going on in South Korea at this point.
It's like the aging society is growing, and it's a big issue.
The speed of aging is really fast compared to any country's experience.
So our birth rate is also declining so fast.
Population is falling.
A lot of women are scared to have children because of the reality of living in South Korea.
South Korea, a nation heralded for its meteoric economic rise and vibrant culture, finds itself at a crossroad. After a remarkable journey from the ashes of post-war devastation to modern prosperity, that has brought forth complex challenges, intertwining the threads of demographics, the economy, and societal value.
By the way, this is a Chinese channel. I mean, everything they say checks out. And China is in the exact same bag. China is going through the same thing.
At the forefront of those complex challenges is the falling birth rate, which is now the world's lowest.
My name's Jin John. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I've been making films and television for 17 years. I have been making a documentary around egg freezing. The egg freezing option is becoming a growing trend, not just for women who have cancer, but people who wanted to do it as a social egg freezing, so without any medical problems.
And this is one of the largest scams going on right now. So we are kind of like bringing all of this upon ourselves because greed, because of the elitist mentality of what Leatherman, displayed before. They say, oh, there's just too much people. We want to have less people. That Malthusian fucking mentality of we want to have less people around me because I like to have my things. I don't want to have people nearby that are not of my liking. But besides that, we have this other problem, which is the money. The idea of you can just freeze your eggs and then when it's convenient for you, you'll just have a couple kids. And it just doesn't work like that.
Storing your eggs in order to delay childbearing years, in order to get ahead in life or chase a career or do other things, and to look into having children at a later stage. I am 38 years old, 39 in a few months, and then it's my last year of my 30s. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that, lady. The people that tell you to freeze your eggs and charge you for freezing the eggs and then will charge you for the fertility treatment, and then when that fails, we'll charge you again, and then when it fails again, it will charge you yet again, and when it fails for a third time, you will be wondering, hey, how much is the actual success rate of this that I'm trying to do? You will fall into the reality that's what? 5% at 40? Less than that? That's the reality. That's a reality they don't tell you right away because they want you to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to have a kid when you're fucking 40 years old, when your body is already giving up. Yeah, you can have kids at 40. You can have kids naturally as a woman at 40. Yeah, it can happen. Is it the most common thing in the world? No, not at all. You have to be particularly lucky in the genetics department. Your partner needs to be that as well. And it is not the most common thing ever. It's not the most common thing at all. In spite, if we see any trend, is that fertility in general for everyone is going down. Accelerated so for men. And women are not that far behind. This is a growing problem. So you're not biologically doing any better. We're actually doing a lot worse. There's less fertility for men. There's less fertility for women. There's less movement in the sperm of men year after year at an incredible rate. It's like 1.5 or 2% reduction of sperm movement for men fertility. And you combine that with the cost of actually having kids, the social pressure to not have kids at all. People still with this stupid mentality that there's still people out there that think that we're overpopulated. So it's not just Letterman that he's a dumbass. No, there's a lot of people that actually think this. There's a lot of rich people, influential people that, yes, they either out of their own stupidity, because yes, extremely rich people can be extremely stupid as well. And there's also people there that have a factor of this. I just want to see less people around, or I just, this elitist thing of, yeah, less people would be better. All of that pressure just pushes us towards no incentive. There's no reason why anyone would want to have kids anymore. Why make that sacrifice? Why? Because you have traditional values, because you believe that family is important. How many of us are left? It's damn few. I can tell you that right now. You see less and less. Okay? You see a lot of this. You see a lot of people that, again, is it really their fault? Leatherman, this woman here, is it really their fault that they think this way? Have they been manipulated to think a certain way? Maybe. Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. The result is still the same thing. This woman thinks that she's going to be having a happy baby when she's 40, when that number is nowhere near as high as she thinks it is. There's going to be a very small chance. It's going to be super expensive for her to even try. And then she will finally give up. And maybe 1 in 10 people will actually be successful at having a frozen egg develop into an actual person when they're 40.
Jin wants children one day. It's about finding the right time before it's too late. For a growing number of South Koreans, like aspiring drummer and restaurateur Lee Kyuna, having children is simply not on the agenda.
The reason why I don't want children, or I didn't really thought about it, is because I think Korea is a very bad society, a very bad condition to raise a child at this point.
South Korea is ranked the world's most expensive place to raise a child. Real estate prices are sky high, and the capital, Seoul, where half the population lives, is one of the world's top 10 most expensive cities to live.
The cost of raising a child in Korea is ridiculous. Not about just buying your own house, your own real estate. It's also about what everybody judge you by, the appearance, like what kind of brand you're wearing, what kind of brand your baby is wearing.
Prices are just so high with everything, living costs, just to get a home and just to put kids through education.
And there you go. So you see this, and yes, this would be the most extreme case, South Korea, but just shows where everything is going. Again, I've done videos like this one before. the aging population in Japan one. I think that was very interesting to see how it just, schools just become care homes for the elder, and you see that social trend, people having to work, 70 years old or more. You never get to retire. Who will be able to do that? It is the new generations that pay for the ones that retire. There simply will not be enough money, no matter where you are at this point. Okay, so guys, basically just talking it about this because this is by far the greatest threat humanity faces. It's incredible. It is our own implosion, our own, self-inflicted, maybe even fatal wound that we have brought upon us. See you on the next video. Take care.